In January last year, rather than announcing a third version, sequel, or ultra version that previous generations got, Pokemon decided to do something a little different this time. The first expansion in the main series history. Though some fans are split on the matter, others were intrigued to find out what that would entail. As someone who falls in the latter camp, I was quite pleased with the first ever as a whole. So much I did with the main game. Let's take a look at expansion packs for Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'll be splitting this look into two sections for each chapter, since much of what I said about the main game carries over here. Each new element will be treated as part of its respective chapters. Let's start with the Isle of Armor, released on June 17th of last year. I wasted no time in opting and once the day came, I was given my ticket in the form of the Armor Pass. After taking a train, a quarter of a night taxi to reach the island, I went there train as was my rival, aspiring gym leader. Depending on which version you play, you contend with the poison type trainer Clara, or the psychic type specialist Avery. I rather like the designs, and despite their condescending behavior, I do rather like pulling their pigtails and serving the proverbial humble pie. Our teachers during the stay are the eccentric martial arts master Mustard and his wife Honey. Top of the condiment being pretty tasty, feel free to insert a Beatles or Incredibles reference here. Anyway, the setting is based off the real-life Isle of Man off the coast of England, and as in the taking the wild area concept, the island is one big wild area, which introduces the many monsters from the entire history of the series that are entirely new, and entirely new one that's key to the story section, Kubfu. In order to train Kubfu, you're given 3 tasks to accomplish on the island. The first task is chasing after 3 Galarian Slowpoke, one of which is absconded with the dojo's uniform of new students. After defeating them and reclaiming their uniform, you're officially taken under Mustard's wing. Upon completion of the trials, you will be given a special armor as a dojo's prize. The next task revolves around gathering ingredients for the max soup, which will only be key to bonding with Kubfu, but can allow your partners to gain the ability to Gigantamax upon consuming it. It takes 3 max mushrooms, and the mushrooms can be found on the island, mainly in the Forest of Focus. The final task is to bond with Kubfu in order to train into Urshifu at Towers of Two Fists. Depending on training method, this one will be different depending on which tower you decide to train in. I went with the Tower of Darkness and Sword, and the Tower of Waters and Shield. The island is also host of side activities to enjoy, until getting rewards to flesh out the dojo from Honey. You can also search for the Alolan Diglett around the island and exchange for Pokemon. That alone can be busy well in this year and almost done in both versions. My favorite might actually be the Crymomatic, an invention made by their son Hyde. The device allows you to get items by combining them inside, clean made the Pokeballs made with apricorns from Johto. In between all, you not only train under Mustard, but the gym leaders from the base game that also come down on the train. Additionally, Mustard's also Leon's sensei a long time ago. Of course, across the story portion of the game, of this part of the past, you get to fight Mustard. He's a real go-getter, and he's the Urshifu form opposite the one you choose. As a quick aside before getting the next half of the past, I do like how this expansion introduced a walking Pokemon, most like Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, something that was found in the data of Sun and Moon, but could not be included due to technical limitations. On October 22nd last year, the second half of the patch went live with the Crown Tundra. This chapter is named for the area where the story takes place, which is heavily based on the mountains of Scotland. Upon taking the train there, you were assigned research tasks alongside the rugged explorer Peony and starter Peonia. Peony would have been the research partner already, but as his teenage daughter, she has a different way of researching her dad. This leads to a new game mode that's one of my favorite aspects of this chapter, the Dynamax adventure. Not only is the Gauntlet Dynamax raids, but several legendary monsters from previous games make their return. It's something I've really enjoyed doing over the past few months. I do admit I had to do the first challenge twice, because Suicune and Shield after my Joy-Con drifted to the environmental Pokemon. Got a solid Pro Controller to avoid a repeat of that. This section also revolves around legendary Galar and his steed, which varies depending on your action story, and I will get to that in a bit. Anyway, after making base camp in the small town of Freezington, which has been frozen in time in more than one, you are given a series of tasks by both Peony and Sonia. I mentioned in my review of the base game how much I love her, so let's continue. As I've mentioned, and the first task is known as the Secret Bonds of Sovereign and Steed. We must not only find out about the legend of Calyrex, the king of bountiful harvests, but also capture said Steed of Calyrex. This involves finding more about his history with the town, and Calyrex using Peony's body to speak. Won't be the first time in the series. In order to help earn the trust of said Steed, you need the reins of Unity to bond Calyrex with the Steed. Also, the Steed depends when you feed in each version. And so what I went with the Ice Root Carrots for Galostria. In Shield, I use a Shade Root Carrots for Spectrier. Lastly, after you meet with Calyrex and Peony in the Crown Shrine at the peak, you get to battle and capture the monster. I actually like the design story behind him, and the Triforce symbols on his neck. The second task is called the Terrible Titans, Lurking Locked Away, which sees the return of the Titans from Hoenn, but also introduces two new ones, Regilucky and Regidrago. The latter reminds me a lot of Flattrap especially. You have to capture Regirock, Regice, and Registeel before you decide which one to face in Split Decision Ruins, and for the most part, most of find and capture the other ones are easier than basically having to learn Braille in Generation 3. For having to find a backup Everstone shields, I don't use them that often. I typically sell them. I didn't know they would be required to enter one of the dens. The third and final story task is called A Legendary Tree of a Legendary 3. You have to catch the Galarian forms of the Kanto legendary birds. Galarian Articuno was the easiest for me since I was in the same area I already was. Galarian Moltres on the Out of Armor from the previous chapter was a bit tougher. The hardest to track and capture was Galarian Zapdos, which draw a lot of comparisons to the Espresso Mount from Donkey Country. Between that and the iPhone 1 Regidrago, guess I have that game on my mind lately. This concludes the story portion with Peony and his daughter continuing their research with your help, and depending on whether or not you clear the bonus adventure with the Ultra Beast or the Out of Armor chapter, I had done the latter well before this chapter went live. You then get a message from Leon. This leads to one of the biggest additions of this entire past, one that contributed to some of the time I spent most, the Galarian Star Tournament. This mode assembles the entirety of the cast of the game. You can unlock more each time you defend your title, with the last call being Swordwood and Steelbird. Many of our antics in the base game by investing in this tournament, they're not the best battles to make up for that behavior with loads of money. Now that's a British reference I wasn't sure I'd be able to get in, yet here we are. With this, and over 480 hours logged combined between this pass and the base game, I can finally start wrapping this up. Having spent extensive time in both the base game and the expansion to write this review, I can honestly say that as the first attempt as a distribution method, this may not have been the breath of fresh air the base game was, but it's an easy 4 out of 5 at least, also 4.5 out of 5. It basically follows the same rule a third version, sequel, older version normally would. This whole charging extra for the full experience argument doesn't make much sense to me when most first-party Nintendo games, the base titles are a complete experience. This is no different from the Splatoon 2 Auto Expansion, which I got alongside the base game, or the Pair of Fire as for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I opted into before I knew who'd be joining the fight. Just otherwise, typically isn't how game development works, nor is how product development works in general. I reaffirm this was the intended plan. Even if factoring the current situation, the development cycle wasn't altered in any way. These titles weren't made by Bethesda after all, so I definitely wouldn't hate these because I played Okami as well. On the contrary, the amount of other titles that didn't quite measure up or outright bad that I've played over the past year helped me appreciate how Generation 8 and other ones in my collection more. As for brief loading moments, like before, and the trailers only get one. I guess we know what the developer's favorite Metallica song is. Fade to Black. Now that I've finally finished this review, I intend to keep playing these games along with other titles in the series, past, present, and future. Hope you all find something to enjoy in there, and I will continue to look forward to the upcoming Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl this November, and Pokemon Legends Arceus in January. That will be all for now. See you soon.